Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to the second day of our forum on content production and distribution on digital TV platforms in Africa. Delighted to say that today we are going to be discussing some fantastic issues, starting now with the issue of content monetization across the digital platforms, what producers and publishers must do. My name is Benjamin Pius. I'm the publisher of Broadcast Media Africa. Without much ado, let me introduce my first panelist. He's Mr. Lawal Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed is the general manager of the Channel 5 for the Nigerian Television Authority based in Lagos, Nigeria. And then I have Mr. Yinka Oduneye, who is the president of the Independent Television Practitioners Association of Nigeria. And last but not least, Mr. Munya, Martin Munya, he is the director of the Miss President reality TV show. He's based in Kenya. Now, let me start by turning to you individually. Mr. Munya, you take off first, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to this panel. And thank you, and happy to meet all of you here. Yes, you introduced me as the director of Miss President reality TV show. That is correct. Though I currently am also a director of a company called Dreamcatcher Productions, and we specialize in audiovisual content. We do all manner of content. May I also add that we've been grounded since March this year as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we have come to realize how important travel is to our industry. So because we've been working for clients who are across 11 countries on the African continent, and I think you get so used to travel that you forget that you actually travel. It becomes similar to just leaving your house, passing the gate, and going to the office and back. However, this is actually crossing borders, and we can feel it now. So why I mention that is because as a result of this lockdown and everything, we created yet another show. It's called Great Leaders Live, Great Leadership Live. It's on YouTube. I will share a link on the chat group here. And we are back to talk show format, but using a virtual platform. So that has sort of catered for lack of travel.
Excellent. So let me turn to Mr. Oduneye. Give us a bit of background about yourself in general, sir.
Okay. I'm current president, Independent Television Producers Association of Nigeria, ITPA. And we've been around for a long time. Basically, we're a collective of, like the name says, producers who mainly, but not only, we produce a lot of shows where we play more in the broadcast TV conventional medium. Of course, like I said, not only that, we still have lots of our members who also do films for cinema. But basically, for a large part, our members have dominated the broadcasting industry in Nigeria. And I mean, we have members spanning from the likes of John Momo, who owned channels, and quite a lot of people who pioneered a few things in the media landscape in Nigeria. And of course, this COVID has been a great challenge because it made an already bad situation worse. I say already bad situation in the sense that already we have a lot of our members who are struggling to see how they can convert their content, how they can monetize their content on a digital platform, which is very new to them. These are people who are used, before now to commission content or developing content and then sending to broadcasters. And now all of a sudden they are in the middle of this digital landscape. So already we've been struggling to see how we can monetize this content effectively. I personally, again, I'm a TV producer. I've done reality shows severally. So I made a lot of reality shows. Done TV movies, cinema movies, and I shoot a lot of commercials. So I've been doing this for the past 20 years. I run a company called Audiovisual First, with the production outfit in Lagos. And like I said, we've done quite a few things in reality shows, in TV commercials and movies and general programming.
Fantastic. Mr. Lawal,
yeah,
can you talk to us about yourself, sir?
Absolutely. And I would like to, first of all, thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity to talk on this platform. And then to say everything you said about me is correct, except the fact that I'm the zonal director, NTA Lagos Network Center. That suggests that there are a channel and a production outfit belonging to NTA all under my zone in Lagos. So those are being managed by general managers. So that I can speak for. NTA has over 100 stations scattered across the country. I can't speak for those ones. I can only restrict talk to those that affect me directly. So the channel I'm managing directly and others I'm coordinating is NTA2 Channel 5 Lagos. In the last 1.5 years, it's been transformed to fully commercial outfit. So what we do mostly is commercial television. Then, of course, the NTA Channel 10 in Lagos is the one that is public service oriented, doing lots more of government conventional programming and transmission. So then again, we have another branch of NTA in Lagos that is called NTA ETV. ETV meaning educational television. That one specializes in the production of educational content, mostly by NTA's specialized channels for children, and other stations that are also broadcasting children programs on the NTA network. So basically, that's what that structure is like. Personally, I'm a producer. I have been with television for 28 years now, and I've been a teacher, a producer. The genre of production I'm most comfortable with is documentary, but I generally teach TV. I am the kind of producer I am looking at every producer to be. The one that can shoot, can write, can edit, and can broadcast.
Fantastic.
So all woven in one. Every modern producer must be able to combine all these skills together for them to be able to. So that's the kind of thing I am. And well, I don't know what other parts of the discussion is going to glide us into. So as we continue, we are going to be talking. Thank you so much for this.
Sure. Thank you. So without much ado, Martin, let me come to you first. Talk to me about how you currently monetize your product, and put that in the context of why you choose that monetization direction and what sort of monetization options were open to you that you could have pursued.
Okay, thank you very much. I need to explain two different production approaches that we have.
Okay.
The first one and the main one, which earns us revenue as a company, is work for hire. So be it a broadcaster, be it a client comes to us, wants a product made for them, or wants a documentary, corporate documentary shot, or in the case of Miss President, wants a whole reality show created from scratch. So they come to us, they have a budget, we kind of negotiate the budget, and we start production. So it's simply, you pay us to produce.
So
what you do with the content?
Sorry, Martin, this is commissioning, basically. TV station commissioning.
Correct.
Okay.
So what you do with your content, that is your problem. Our job ends when we deliver the final product to you. Then we also have done our own products, originated our own content. One of them is Dads Can Cook, a TV show. Let me just use that for now as a reference, whereby we went knocking door to door, various broadcasters, and the show was picked by one of the broadcasters. And we had a deal going on where it was a part sponsorship, part payment sort of deal. And of course, it was tied to a period not exceeding 18 months. After 18 months, we could now licensed the content, and it was picked up by Mnet at some point. So those are the two kind of products we've been handling. Okay. The new one now, which is a live stream, is now in a AVOD platform. So what happens with AVOD, and I think one of my fellow panelists might talk more at length, is it's a numbers game.
Okay.
You have to build the numbers.
For the purpose of the people that are joining us that are learning or that are not familiar with the term AVOD, that will be
advertising video on demand. There are three platforms I can talk about immediately, which are the most common. There is AVOD, advertising video on demand, and that's your YouTubes and TikToks or that line of platforms.
Yeah.
Then there is a video on demand, which you can pay per use. You might want to go in and watch one movie. It's a one-off payment, and you have subscription video on demand, which is your Netflixes and all those.
Okay, correct.
Yes. So we are currently running our show on an AVOD, advertising video on demand, and it's all about numbers. It's a numbers game. So the more viewers we have, then you can monetize. And the explanation on how to monetize content on, let's say, YouTube, it's all online. It's on the YouTube platform. You can go and read about it. And they explain the numbers, the waiting time it takes for you to start monetizing and all that.
Okay, excellent. Just staying with you briefly there. The Miss President reality TV show is your show. Can you give us just a little bit snapshot about what it is about and on which platform are they currently residing?
Okay, very interesting. Miss President TV show was created by a company called Media Focus on Africa, and they address various communication needs across the continent. And this time they were tasked with addressing violent extremism in Kenya. So the show actually kicked off in a town called Kwale, and it went to how the women generally are dealing with violent extremism, since they are the most affected when their sons cross over into Somalia, and we have border issues with Somalia and radical groups, for lack of a better political correct way of putting it. So it started from there, and we addressed the issue on women in leadership and what the power that women have in their hands, starting from the community level all up to governing a country.
Okay.
That's actually how the show was created. Let's look for the Miss President and someone who can be in a position of leadership be it at county level, community level, and eventually maybe even government level. And we had an academy where the women would go in, and it was very competitive. I could say also the highly intellectual to an extent, because of the trainings they were getting and the kind of papers they had to write, and the tasks they were given involved a lot of research, writing, presentation. It was quite complex. So it wasn't just a beauty pageant, as at the beginning it was referred to, just putting beautiful ladies on TV and giving them a nice presidential title. These were actually women in leadership in various parts across the country.
Okay, and who commissioned you to do this program?
Media Focus on Africa. Media Focus on Africa went to the broadcaster, and they had their own broadcasting deal, which is separate of us. Our part was actually production and creating and putting the show together, packaging the show, and delivering the
Okay, so Media Focus on Africa commissioned your production outfit to deliver the show. Excellent. Correct. Let me turn to Mr. Odunei. Being a producer and also having broadcasters within your association. And when you were introducing yourselves, talking about yourself, you said a lot of your members are actually thinking about this monetization issue. What are they thinking about? How are they currently monetizing, and what would they like to happen in terms of the monetization opportunities in the digital space that we're all heading into?
Well, okay, you mentioned a very interesting news article regarding the Financial Times in terms of the volume and the direction in which ad spend is going to be going in terms of the media. A lot of money is being spent on the digital platform, and I guess that is opposed to the traditional broadcasters, which was what was succeeding before. But I have a little bit of challenge with that model, at least within Nigeria, and I think our esteemed panelists from NTA could also collaborate this, in the sense that we have more people who watch traditional TV, when I say traditional TV, your regular free-to-air, your NTA, your TV, free-to-air, than we have on the digital platform. Now, the case and challenge we all have is, how many people can afford to watch 20 minutes, 1 hour program online using their data? It's very few. Whereas you have more people, all you have to do is have electricity, switch on your TV, and you can watch as many hours as you want without having to. And I'm talking about free to air now, not subscription based. So, but what we are having is now, because of this perception that there's a lot of people in digital space, we find a lot of advertisers' money going on the digital platform. Okay. However, data shows that there are very few people who watch it compared to those who watch traditional media. So a lot of money is going in this direction. And the challenge is a lot of those materials are more influencer-based, social media influencer-based, as opposed to hard content. Now, I'm not talking about the likes of subscription-based digital media like the Netflix or this world, or your Iroko, or some of the programs you have on YouTube. But generally, I'm talking about where a lot of the ad spend goes. So the challenge we're having as producers is a lot of money going in that direction. We feel there's very little traction. It's more hype. Whereas the case in point in Nigeria, in our present circumstance, more people still watching traditional media. So people who have invested quite a lot in developing series, programs, are finding it hard. Unlike before, I take my program to NT and I have a lot of advertisers that to play. But we go to the advertisers and they say, so sorry, because we cannot track our audience, we are spending more of our money online now. So that is the struggle in Nigeria for the producer. So our challenge is, how do we then take our content to these digital platforms and monetize it in such a way? So for instance, I did a program recently, Justice Corps. It's a reality show. First of its kind, at least. I know that shows similar have come since then. We spent millions of naira putting that show together. How do I that to the digital platform? How do I monetize in such a way that I can get the return of those investments quickly? Knowing and understanding that within Nigeria, very few people can still afford to sit down and watch a 30-minute program on using their data. The data is still very expensive. So that's the biggest challenge I think we're facing. And I like what the government is trying to do now with setting up, trying to see how we can do audience measurement. Because then ultimately, that is the edge, the digital platform. I can go to the back end and tell people have clicked. Whether they watch from beginning to end is a different matter, but by what you can find out how many people have clicked and what. So I'm sure that when we have proper audience measurement on a lot of our traditional broadcasts, then it will be clear and easy for people to then know that, okay, so the advertisers to understand that the money, the audience is still here at the moment.
Very interesting points, Mr. Odunei. But let me jump straight to, let me swing to Mr. Ahmed Lawal. Mr. Lawal, your TV station or your broadcasting outfit. So, what commercialization model are you using within the NTA within your TV station space?
Thank you so much for this opportunity again. What is happening is that in Nigeria we don't seem to have one model fits all kind of situation. So what works is what works between you and the content owner. So we would normally sit down and broker an arrangement that will work for us because, like Okunyi has said, it's actually not well structured in such a way that we have a formula that applies everywhere. So, but we have a way with which we engage independent producers and owners of content. One of the ways we do is the popular one, which is revenue sharing. By the way, his program, Justice Court, runs on my station. He pays for it to run on my station, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah. We can co-produce together with producers. As a matter of fact, we have a number of programs that we are co-producing with other producers. What comes to my mind quickly now is one program, a dating program, first of its kind. I need a partner. We do co-production on that, and then we show it on our channel while it streams live on the website of the owners of the idea, the concept. So we do that. We also do program exchange. Now, Mr. Martin, for instance, owns a channel. I own a channel. If he has a content that he feels compelling that runs on his channel, and I also agree with him that that content can run successfully on my own channel, we can actually agree to exchange if you also find something similar on my own channel. So he runs mine, I run his.
Like a trade by barter kind of thing, yeah?
That's right. So in the process, if running his own makes me money, he doesn't share from part of the money. If running my own on his own channel makes him money, I don't share from his own part of the money. That is one part of the agreement. Another part of the agreement is also to agree that if running my content on your channel makes money, we share this percentage. If your program is running on my channel and it's able to make money, we agree on some kind of percentage sharing. So those models also apply. We sometimes purchase, but this come as purchase mostly as insights to, make us be able to produce some kind of content. For instance, there was a time NTA was producing a series called No Victor, No Vanquish. Now, it was reflecting on the stories and events that happened during the Biafran War. And so therefore, NTA did not have all the footages it required to be able to produce that documentary series. NTA ended up having to be buying from production outfits that have such material, that have recorded such realities. And so therefore, we had to pay to acquire them. We still do a lot of that. So those are some of the models we apply in engaging producers. Producers also come to us to say they have a program they want to put on air and already have either advert built into them or they have a sponsor. So that way we can also agree on how the models would work to agree with whatever we want to put on the ground. So basically that's what we do. But besides that, we also, just like Julia has said, in Nigeria, it is very difficult for one to just survive on one stream of income. Very difficult. So we are trying to see how we can actually expand and accommodate online businesses, such that we can have multiple streams of income coming to us. But it's a little bit difficult because of one, level of internet penetration in Nigeria, access to internet, and I think cost of data. And I think I have once mentioned it in one of the forums that you guys put together, that until Nigeria is able to complete the journey from analog to digital, and so therefore make data cheaper, we would not be able to be having cheap data in Nigeria. And so therefore, digital television or digital business opportunities for content owners and television would be difficult for now. But it doesn't mean that it's not going. It is there. It is thriving, but it's really not as popular as it is in other climes. And I must say that the figures you are putting, coming from the research made, are figures from countries that have succeeded in having cheap data and internet penetration, but not countries like Nigeria. And then you see, I'm seeing this even within the era of COVID-19, where, for instance, students are at home. There is all sorts of content online for them to access, but how many of them are accessing this content to make them live in their homes as if they are attending schools? Only those students whose parents can afford, and there are very few. My child in my rural area cannot have access to this because, one, there is no internet access. Two, even if there is, the cost of data is high, so that person is disenfranchised. And that rural area I'm talking about is where majority of Nigerians are coming from. So you can see how people are disconnected.
Okay. So, Oduni, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I just want to quickly take him on the issue of this COVID-19 and education. A lot of students not being able to access education because they don't have the time in rural areas. So I think this was a good place for NTA, with over 100 stations, to dedicate a certain network channel dedicated to students.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I agree with you, Mr. Inkai. But you know what the thing is this: if classroom is not brought to the internet completely wholesome, and so therefore it's interactive, and students can do their assignments and their marks are given to them outright, it's not classroom. Okay. So all this idea of yes, it's not classroom.
All right, we'll pick up on that if we have time to discuss that some more. But I need to bring in Martin here. Here's a question for you. As a producer, would you put your content at the minute more on the traditional media, or would you be looking more towards the digital media?
Okay, it is correct that the traditional platforms is still the main platform. Also here in Kenya, you have viewers who watch more of TV and free-to-air than digital media. Digital media has its numbers. It has its numbers in youth, but to answer your question specifically, it works backwards. Who am I making this show for? Who is the target audience? If I'm creating a beauty-based show that's talking to the youth, maybe at an age group between 16 and 25, I would consider making digital media the main platform. Yeah. If I'm making a show like Miss President, I will definitely first consider TV channel, and then spill over into YouTube and all that. Nowadays, nearly every show that is made for TV ends up on YouTube anyway.
Okay, true. Yeah.
Let's look at it that way. So you're actually following the money. Who's paying you? Is it the broadcaster who's paying you to commission a show, or are you producing your own show, whatever genre it is? If you want to be a documentarist and do exposés, for example, exposés on corruption, and you decide, okay, I can risk my life here, look for all manner of stories and just keep exposing, politicians and governors and CSs. Well and good. You'll do that and try to put it out on the digital platforms. The other thing also is, when you're making a show, I'm sure you also factor in, and maybe Mr. Ahmed and Oduni will tell me, when you're creating a show, you're also thinking of the Nigerians in the diaspora. So you're not only looking within, which already rightfully you've said you have numbers. Nigeria, I think, is the most populous if I'm not wrong, country in Africa. So you have the numbers within your borders, but you also have huge numbers, and that's a revenue stream already, but in its own, out in the diaspora. So you're creating content that you know will be appreciated both at home and out.
True.
But there is also the other thing is, when I'm creating content, so I'm creating for Kenya first because I'm a Kenyan. Maybe the language and the mannerisms and of the actors and the trends will be very Kenyan. Then when my show is ready, I start now removing. It depends. Do I want it to be a Pan-African show? If it's a Pan-African show, I start removing elements, Swahili and things which only Kenyans will understand, and make it more geared towards an African audience. So you look for common traits that affect Africa as a whole. Or do I even want to go wider? So I also have an Australian audience. So I make my content international. So those are the things as a producer you are actually looking at before you actually start producing. It's a chicken egg sort of situation. You look at the end, the person you're creating the show for, the audience, and then the audience informs how you're going to create the show.
Excellent. So, Mr. Oduni, how do producers actually access funding to be able to monetize their content at the end of the day from your point of view?
Okay, so let me get this right. So one, there's an ask or there's a belief that perhaps the Nigerian content producers are not churning out enough qualitative content to warrant advertisers, which I think is not true.
Okay.
I think the bottom line is it comes to how has the model worked in Nigeria. So I'm a producer. Like you said, our show is on NTA. We're paying for it. So the producer has to go and look for money to produce his show, produce, market it himself, go to broadcasters and pay broadcasters to air his shows. That is a huge responsibility on the neck of a producer. So that leaves him in that space. So he has to look for a pot of money that can immediately elevate the amount of investment he's made. So he has very little wiggle room to then be bold enough to put it on YouTube and wait for the revenue to come in, because he already has spent quite a lot in producing that. In other climes, you will have broadcasters who would commission.
True.
So that removes the body. So the producer is not chasing after advertisers. It's the broadcaster's job to chase after the broadcaster advertisers, because they are providing a platform to use. So the producer just worries about producing a great show, but that's not been the case in Nigeria. So you have to understand why the producer then is really chasing after, or has to chase after, the advertiser's money, because he spent quite a bit in producing that content in the first place. However, we have producers who realize that that's been a bit difficult now. So they are producing content specifically for the digital platform, which in a lot of cases do not cost as much, and they are then willing to wait a bit longer. But of course, there's a trade-off to that, which then means he spends less on it. So the quality might then not be as you would have on CNN, because at the end of the day, whoever is still a business to the producer, if he does money, he cannot make more content. So that is why you see there's a jostle for a lot of Nigerian producers to sell their movies to Netflix or their series, because at the moment they seem to do the one thing. However, it wasn't like this before. And I'm sure my counterpart in NK will bear me witness. There was a time when broadcasters paid. They paid for content. So producers would just go to the broadcaster.
Why did they stop paying? Why is the commissioning aspect? Hey, maybe I should ask the broadcaster that. Mr. Lawa, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on that?
So let me say this, that NTA happily has it all. We also have in-house producers that produce content for us, so we know the way it works. But typically the way it works within the NTA is also the way it works outside. Here we have a situation where a producer would sit down within the confines of his or her room and think that, this is a great idea, so let me just go ahead and produce it. After that, he or she will now take it to the market and think that it will sell. That doesn't work any longer. If it had worked before, it's no longer going to work any longer, because every producer must have to understand that the table has turned. Now, the viewer or the consumer is the controller of everything. And that's why the consumer is now the one that would have to decide what kind of content I want. He would have to be the one to decide, where do I want to even watch? He would have to decide at what time do I want to watch. So until a producer typically understands these three mixes, he or she would not understand that I need to produce from the point of view of the consumer. If that doesn't work, then it will have to be a difficult push for the producer to push what he or she thinks a lot within the confines of his or her room or office to think that this will go. And that's the problem we've been having. So, but if we have a situation where we will have independent producers like Mr. Inka coming to us to say, I have this great idea. What do you think about it? Then we sit down, we look at it, we evaluate it, we see everything about it, and we say, this looks like it's going to sell. But you know what? Let's produce something a little out of it, and let's test how it's going to work. You know, and so therefore we put it on the digital space and see how it runs. That bit of the show. From the performance of that, we will now see the amount of following. So now the viewer, the consumer, has now determined whether it will sell or not. So we come back and now conclude the business. So I think until we begin to think it that way, it will work.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, Mr. Lawal, can I just respond to him very quickly?
All right, quickly, sir.
So again, Mr. Lawal, we're putting too much responsibility on the shoulders of the producer. It's not my job to know what the audience. Well, I want to produce content that is relevant, but the broadcaster has the engine in place to say this is what the audience, this is what they would like. So you are in a better position to advise me on what the trend is, because you sitting behind, you have the largest audience in Africa. You're able to then say, this is the trend that we see, and you can better advise us. For me, I see that being a lot more effective than, the producer saying, yes, the producer is responsible to make relevant programming. But in terms of audience, what they are looking for, in terms of what the advertisers are looking for, the broadcaster is in a better position to know and advise.
Let me go to this space from Kenya because I got both of you coming from the same market. Obviously have your entrenched views on how things should work. Well, let's get a neutral point of view from Mr. Munya from Kenya. So with regards to the monetization opportunities like commissioning or broadcasters or content providers having to pay broadcasters to put content on their platform, what is the experience from your market in Kenya?
I was listening to what drives content. Yeah? How are you responding to the audience, and what are their needs? Right now, it's a bit tricky in Kenya because we have the producers who are the content creators, but you also have the broadcaster who is also a content creator. So it's not a level playing field in the sense that I am creating content to put on your platform, and you're also creating content to put on your platform. You're working with employees who earn a monthly wage, while I'm paying people on a daily or weekly rate. And definitely my productions will cost more to produce than if you're producing in-house. We also have the issue of licensing. I will go through all the procedures to get licenses. And the licenses, you pay them on a daily fee and on a per show, per title. Yes. So you have a title fees and a daily fees. while the broadcaster pays a one-off annual fee, flat fee. So again, whatever their annual fee is, they can produce 300 shows for the same amount. And if I produce 300 shows, I'm paying for each single show. And I mean title, not episode. Huh? So those are one of the main challenges we are having here, which is to do with licensing and the broadcaster being our direct competitor in a sense. It would change if the broadcaster strictly stuck to maybe broadcasting content such as news and weekly magazines and features, and left all the drama and the reality shows, the sports shows, any other genre other than news and weekly magazines. If it were left to us producers, I think it will change a lot in terms of revenue generation.
So Martin, if I understand what you're saying correctly, you're saying that the broadcasters must choose a lane and stay in the lane. Now, let me ask you an extended question then. So would you guys in Kenya then prefer to have a situation where you get commissioned by the broadcaster to actually put the content out and give it to them? The reason why I ask this question is because that seems not to be the case in West Africa and Nigeria. And personally, my personal opinion is I find it a bit awkward. But hey, it's the way it's played there. But what are your thoughts to that point?
I think to give credit where due, each broadcaster in Kenya has actually commissioned work. So they have commissioned work, but they are also producing equally content. So there are some shows which I strongly believe should be left for the producers to create and to produce, and let the broadcaster focus on building viable business models that can earn them revenue. Right now, they're looking at, if we shot this show in-house, we are going to save money and maximize on advertising revenues and all that. So that's the easiest way to look at things and work on that business model. But if you focus on broadcasting, perfecting the art of broadcasting and outreach, and how you can also license your feeds and cross-share with other broadcasters globally, so that becomes your revenue stream. Leave the producers to handle the creative aspect of the shows. That way you will get a lot of quality shows coming from the producers.
Okay.
As opposed to having in-house people. Today I'm producing news, tomorrow I'm producing a dancing show, the next week I'm producing a sports show because I am employed as a producer at Kenya Broadcasting something station.
Okay.
I can't think straight, but you have producers who will focus on comedy. Another one will focus on sports-related shows and will give you the best in terms of quality and production.
Okay, Mr. Lawa. So let me swing back to you. So stay in your lane, be a broadcaster, stop producing content, and when the producer comes to you, commission their content, and don't ask them to pay you to put the content on your platform. What have you got to say to that?
That's a huge one, but let me say that. It doesn't work the way you think it works. Mr. Inka, for instance, when he was talking, he said that the Nigerian independent producers have the capacity and they have the numbers to be able to produce all the kind of quality content that is required by broadcasters. Well, that is his thoughts. But I must tell you that many of the independent producers that I am having relationship with and I'm having their content on air are not even registered under the umbrella of his body. So that is one significant fact. So which is to say that there are other players out there who are churning out content that is, call it substandard, because it's not regulated. And so therefore, they are the ones who have populated the market. And so therefore, if you're looking for quality content, high quality content, these people who are in the majority in the industry, in the market, would not be able to give you the kind of content you're looking for. So therefore, it means if you're looking for very high quality content, you have to have a lot of money to pay the likes of Mr. Inka to be able to get this kind of content.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, as a broadcaster, I have so many things that I'm contending with.
Mm.
In Nigeria, we don't have stable power, public power supply. So which means I have to run my devices like 24 hours on a diesel rent generator.
Mm-hmm.
That is huge amounts of money to pay. For instance, my channel runs on DSTV and GoTV, which means I have to pay a lot to be able to even evacuate the signal from my point to the point of DSTV and GoTV for them to even distribute, and then I have to pay them the cost of hosting and distributing. So now, if I have to also buy content to air, you can just imagine the size of funds I need to be able to stay afloat and to run a broadcast station. Then for many of us that are still managing traditional transmitters, that we have not yet fully digitized our operations, which means we have an analog transmitter that you are still running, which gobs a lot of resources to maintain and to ensure it keeps going on air. So, but you know, independent producers don't look at it that way. They only look at the fact that they have produced content in the process of which they spent a lot of money. So when they look at you having a platform that is free. Why don't you just allow me use your platform to showcase whatever I have? They don't look at the fact that every minute on air means that there are huge resources put in there for your content to fly. So someone has to work towards, you know, kind of giving me a part of that fund that I need to put all those things on air.
So thank you for that picture, because most people might not understand what you've just highlighted. Shows us the challenges and the opportunity that there are within the Nigerian space, the challenges that you face as a broadcaster, which most people might not be aware of. Let me quickly go to Mr. Odunei. What is the problem with what Mr. Lawal have just highlighted?
Okay, well, to start with, to be fair, I being in the same space with Mr. Lawal, I cannot but also emphasize the fact that yes, the things he has to deal with, power, you know, maintaining and running. But quite unfortunately, it's all peculiar to them. It runs across everybody else. Even for the guy producing the content, he has to go through the same process. Because the producers are ready to work with any broadcaster who's able to then say, okay, these are the challenges. How can we then co-produce, which is what he said they also do. And I want to assure him that yes, there are lots of people who claim to produce programs out there, but there's still quite a lot of people who also have quality programs, high value programs that they produce, that they are willing to come and partner with. However, they might not then be willing to go with a rate that you would offer the guy that just put one camera together and then went on the street and did it, faces on the show.
All right.
They might not be willing to accept that rate. So I think that's where the challenge is. It's then what's the rate that he's willing to accept? Because the guy has spent 20, 30, 40 million naira on the show, and you're saying you can only afford to pay him for just sake of this competition, 100,000 naira per show, per episode. It's a big challenge for him.
Lot of issues, lot of challenge. Martin, you raised your hand just now.
I just wanted to use a supermarket versus supplier in relation to the broadcaster and the producer. If I sit and talk with a supermarket owner or the management, they'll tell me about all the costs and hidden costs they have, which as a supplier of my produce or my goods to the supermarket is none of my It doesn't interest
None
me
of your
at all.
business. Yes. Okay.
They can talk about security. They can talk about how much power the fridges consume to keep the milk and whatever the fresh corner, fresh produce and things. Security, about how there's a lot of pilferage, about expanding car space so that customers can be happy. All that stuff. They can sit and bore me the whole day. I just want to know, are they going to buy my honey? Yeah, I'm a honey producer and I've got 5 varieties of honey. That's what I want to know. So tell me if you're going to buy the honey. I'll ask myself, does the shelf price make sense for the production part on my end? Should I keep expanding my beehives and what have you so that I can keep bringing the honey? But the supermarket, it's up to them to get the numbers in customers. It's up to them to push product, to market themselves as a supermarket, expand their parking space, bring other businesses, cafeterias and all that round so that they make that supermarket a sort of a one-stop shop. I don't want to be bothered in that. So let the station also see how they can think as this supermarket. And I'm talking at a global station, at a global level. Let me focus on producing the best honey.
The broadcasters are the supermarket, you are the honey producers. That's fantastic. Right. Yinka Oduneye, your final words to the industry, please.
Well, my final words is, yes, as producers, we will keep producing the best quality content that we can. We are ready when that time comes for the digital space to put us in a position where we can monetize our content. But before then, I mean, if traditional media is all we have, all we can say to broadcasters is we need to work together a lot better. We need to look at how it had worked. And again, Mr. Lawal, please, when I seem a little bit argumentative with you, it's not to you directly or to NTA, but I'm taking you as a representative of all broadcasters that we go to see how, in the good old days, and you bear me witness, again, NTA, this is an example, the best shows were run on NTA. The best of the best were run on NTA. And producers had a subsisting arrangement whereby that allowed NTA go to the advert or to the general audience to say, we have this great show, come on board. And then go to the producer to then say, okay, you know what? Let's come to an arrangement that works for both parties. And that works. And I think we need to revisit those days again because the broadcasters have a lot more capacity than the individual producers.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Mr. Lawal,
yeah, thank you. And I like the way Mr. Inka ended. I also like the analogy between the supermarket and the honey producer. Mr. Inka, let me address the issue this way. You talk about NTA used to have the best of content those days and the rest of it. Remember that over 90% of that content those days was also being produced by NTA. So how is it that you guys are not able to now manage the space left by NTA up to now? That's one big question. So for me, the answer is quick. The fact that there is seeming distance between the independent producer and the broadcaster in Nigeria. Until we learn to come together to be discussing issues relating to our businesses, we will always have this gap. You will be thinking alone. I will also be thinking alone. Whenever we have to interact for this business, we'll always have issues.
So collaboration. Yes, collaboration.
It is the only way out. And because you are also thinking digital media, I'm also looking at digital businesses. I think the time has come for the independent producer, the broadcaster, YouTube representative, Facebook representative, and all other platforms. We have a forum where we can sit together in Nigeria and say, hey, let's do business. How do I come as a broadcaster? Is it possible to have, for me as a broadcaster, multi-platforms running on your platforms so that the owner of the content, when he comes, he has it on my platform, then it also runs on, so that we have multiple streams of income. That's the only way to survive.
Brilliant. I want to thank you all for joining us on this session. Stay safe and God bless.